Hi loves, welcome or welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, is going to be a how-to video. I feel like this is probably my first time doing a real in-depth how-to video. I was just going over my channel and I was just looking over the videos. Like, I just feel like I need to be more informational on my channel. A lot of my videos consist of just like tutorials where you guys are just watching me, but not necessarily me showing you guys like step by step and getting in depth with what I'm doing. I'm just basically just doing it and letting you guys watch. I definitely feel like this will be the perfect video to start. I already do have a eyebrow tutorial here on my channel, and I'm actually like showing you guys what I do and I'm talking through it as well. So yeah, now we're going to be talking about cut creases. I feel like the makeup game is just really starting to get really diverse, and a lot of people are wanting to just know how to do makeup but just don't know where to start, or you know, how to necessarily do certain styles that they want to achieve. I know that I did recently do a neutral kind of eyeshadow look. Even though it did have a pop of color, it was still more on the neutral side, but I purposely chose these brown tones because I wanted the look to be as basic as possible. Like, this is the most basic I could like come up with, just because I just wanted to really show you guys just the basics of how to do a cut crease. I didn't want to do like a rainbow look where I'm using like 50 different shades and, you know, having to do all these different kind of cut creases and carving out things. Like, it's just, that's just too much. I wanted to make it just as basic as possible. So this is the look that I came up with today. Hopefully you guys like it and you're interested in learning how to do a cut crease, because I feel like this is gonna be a really great video for you guys to learn how to do so. So yeah, of course this will not be me if I did not have a disclaimer in this freaking video. You guys, I would be lying if I said that my mind is not just all over the place right now, but I still want to get out content. That's just what's most important to me. So I obviously showed you guys how to achieve the cut crease, and that was mainly, you know, the goal of this video. But what I did fail to show you guys was how I did the lower lash line. So I will be going over how it I did that step by step, but just you guys aren't gonna watch me do it. Now I do have videos where I've done my lower lash line, so yeah, pretty much any other video that I've done an eyeshadow tutorial on, you guys can see that. But yeah, just in today's video, I kind of forgot to press the record button again. So yeah, but like I said, today's video is going to be very informational. So I will have timestamps below. The tutorial will basically be like the last part of this video. The first portion is going to be me going over all the brushes that you're gonna need, all the products and everything that you're gonna need to achieve this look. So yeah, you guys. So if you guys would like to see how you can create the perfect cut crease, then go ahead and continue to watch. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, you guys. And please do not forget to turn on your post notification bell, so that way you are notified every single time that I upload a video. So yeah. Okay, y'all, so we're gonna go through all the brushes that you're going to need to achieve your just basic, simple cut crease look, okay? So I'm gonna go over all the brushes basically in order, okay? So the first brush that you're obviously gonna need after you fill in your eyebrows is going to be a brush where you're able to apply the concealer, because you have to carve out your brows. And you obviously don't need to use like a concealer to carve out your brows. You can also use a base, which is something that I did for the first time today. So typically what that brush is gonna look like is like how this looks right here. It's very, very thin, very small, and it's very flat as well. Now I know a lot of brushes don't necessarily come like this, but once you pack on the product on both sides, of course, it kind of thins out a little bit. I do have one by P. Louise as well. Now this is the one that I did use in today's video, which is more on the smaller side, but the one that you would typically want to use, or the one that people typically like to use, is the one that's like kind of this size. But yeah, this is the P. Louise brush. This is the 7072 brush. It is literally like the perfect cut crease brush ever. I did not use it in today's video just because this one is more on the smaller side, and I feel like I don't really have a lot of lid space, so I just wanted to use something that was smaller. But yeah, this one is definitely on the bigger side. It's flat, just like the one that I showed you before. Especially when you pack on that product, it gets even like flatter, and you can really like carve out the brows perfectly and you can cut the crease perfectly as well. So yeah, this brush is very, very important. So brushes like these are really, really important to have in your collection, not just to carve out your brows, but to also apply your base as well. So the next brush I want to get into is a fluffy brush like this. This is really, really important, you guys, because after you apply that base with the brush that I was previously talking about, you want to make sure that you have an even layer. And obviously, like, this brush is going to help you like smooth everything out, but you don't want too much product to be on your lid. You, like I said, you want something that's going to be very, very even. So yeah, when you go in, obviously, like, it's gonna be in the video, but you want to use a patted motion just to make sure that you're getting any excess product and everything is still even. That way you can have a smooth application. So yes, a brush like this is so important. I use this every single time I will do a cut crease look. Okay, so now that we got those 3 brushes out of the way, those are the brushes that you're obviously going to be using to apply the base. Now we can talk about what bases are actually best for you to use. So I'm going to talk about 2 different brand bases just because I just want to be a little bit more diverse and not just talk about one base, because there are obviously a few good bases out there on the market, but these are just my absolute favorite. So I did not use it in today's video, but the Juvia's Place eyeshadow base is really, really great. I use this all the time. Like, this has definitely been on my channel before numerous amounts of times, you guys. So yeah, this is really good to use. I really like this a lot. But what I use in today's video is the P. Louise bases. So I used Rumor 8 and Rumor 4. I mixed these 2 together to carve out my brows, and then I just went in with Rumor 4 to basically put on the rest of my eyes. You always want to use an eyeshadow base that's 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. Sometimes I go like probably 5 shades just because I really like my eyeshadows to pop. But yeah, so that's just really, really important. So yeah, I use these. I really, really love the P. Louise eyeshadow bases. If you guys aren't familiar with these bases, then you definitely need to get hip on it. I will get you hip on it because these bases are amazing. This is what basically put them like on the market, honestly. Like, really, really got their name out there is because of these bases. So yeah, but what these 2 bases have in common is the fact that they're emollient. When you're doing your eyeshadow looks, you definitely want to use a base that's more on the emollient side, meaning that it's not going to like fully dry down to like a matte finish. Eventually it will, but when you first do that application, you want to make sure that it's kind of sticky and tacky. That way your eyeshadows will stick to the base, and it can also add so much more opaqueness and pigment to the eyeshadows. So this is the perfect example. Some people like to use concealers for eyeshadow bases, right? You wouldn't want to use the e.l.f. Camo Concealer for your eyeshadow base. And why? Is because this concealer dries down to a matte finish, like extremely matte finish. So when you put something matte on your eyes and then you try to go over top of it with eyeshadow, it's going to look just basically, it's not going to be pigmented at all. It's not going to be blended. It's not going to look seamless. Your blend's not going to look put together or just have that nice gradient effect whatsoever. So you want to go in with a base that has like an emollient kind of finish to it. And yeah, that's why I said it's so important to use this fluffy brush and, you know, brushes like this to make sure that you have an even layer. Because with emollient bases, it is easy to put too much, and when you start to blend, it can look muddy. Your eyeshadows are blended in with the eyeshadow base, and it's just not a good look. That's why this brush is so important, because it picks up that excess product and still makes sure that you have an even, opaque, full coverage layer. That way that, you know, your eyeshadows can apply smoothly, look opaque, and just really, really pigmented, okay? So that's why those brushes are really, really important. I want to talk about those first and just go in depth with the application and basically the uses of these brushes. Definitely, this is the way to go when it comes to eyeshadow bases. These bases are great, and they're definitely going to make sure that your eyeshadow is pigmented, like how mine is today. Okay, now that we got like the really, really important stuff out of the way, now we can get into the actual eyeshadow application itself. So in today's look, I only used 3 blending brushes, you guys. Like, that's what I'm telling you. Like, I did not want to do some crazy rainbow kind of look, because I definitely would have had to use way more than 3 blending brushes. Like I said, this is something that I'm trying to teach you guys how to do. So of course I wouldn't want to start making things more complicated than what it has to be. I wanted to do a real basic look, and obviously this is a really basic look because of the colors and everything like that, and the fact that I only use 3 blending brushes. So yeah, so the first brush that you want to use in your eyeshadow application is going to be a brush that looks like this. This is what it looks like, really small blending brush, where you're going in with your deepest shades, which is basically going to be your first shade. You want a brush that's small like this so you can be able to have that good placement and just really be precise as well with where you put this color, because this is the most important shade, you guys. That first shade is basically going to set the foundation for the rest of your shades to come. So it's really important that you have a small blending brush like this, and it's actually dense as well. That way you can really pack on that product and pack on that pigment. So yeah, like I said, it's really small and dense, which is exactly how you want it to look. So yeah, that's the first brush. And then you want to go in with a brush that is more on the fluffy side. Now this is still small because, like I said, I like to use small detail brushes because it gives me more precision work that I can do, and because I feel like I don't really have a lot of space. So yeah, either way, it doesn't matter. You still want to use a more fluffy brush. Even if it's detail, it's still fluffy, and it's still as you can see, like, it's wider. The second brush that I'm showing you is wider than the first one. That way you can go ahead and start to have that more blending effect. That first shade, we're mainly doing that just to put the placement down. We're not necessarily doing any blending just yet. But when we start going in with other shades, that's when we want to start placing them and making sure that they're blended and diffused, and it has that nice gradient effect. So yeah, this brush is perfect. I love it because, like I said, it's precise, but it's also fluffy as well. That way you can get that precision work done, but you can also blend the eyeshadow out really nicely as well. So yeah, now that I went in and told you guys that this brush is more on the fluffier side, it's slightly like wider than the first one, I can go ahead and explain to you guys how it's important to basically up the size of your brush as you go up in shade, if that makes sense. So how we went in with this brush right here to apply the first shade, now when we're going to apply the second shade, we need to go in with a more fluffier brush. That way we can have more of that blending, more of that blended, like, diffused look. Because if we went in with another brush like this for the second shade, we would get more of that, like, dense, compacted kind of finish, you know what I'm saying, and not a more diffused, blown out finish like how we're trying to do. That's the kind of look that we're trying to achieve today. So it's best to use a brush that's more fluffy and a little bit more less dense. So the next brush that you're going to need is a fluffy blending brush. I don't know why I'm like having a hard time saying that. A fluffy blending brush that is shaped like this. So yeah, this is still more on the dense side, but it is a lot more fluffy. It's dense, so that way it's definitely going to pack on the product, like a nice amount of product, but it's still fluffy on the same token. So that way you can be able to still blend out your shade, and it can still be nice and diffused. So this brush is really important because this is like the last brush that you're going to use to really make sure that you get that nice gradient diffused effect. So yeah. And then we're gonna go into a product which is really important when it comes to cutting the crease, and that is the Cut Carver. This is by P. Louise. Now, you guys, a lot of people can argue that this might just be coconut oil, like raw coconut in a freaking heart-shaped container. Of course, they say that it's not, but either way, you don't have to use this product if you don't want to. It's really great though. It's basically like this oily kind of consistency. I don't know if you guys can tell, it's like shiny right here, and you would dip your brush into it, and this is what you would use to basically carve out your crease, so that way you can get all of that excess eyeshadow. You guys are gonna see in the tutorial, you see me doing it a billion times. I usually use baby oil because it's just a little bit more, how can I put it? It's just, in my opinion, it's kind of easier to work with, but using oil, it can get a little bit messy. I would say the oil removes it a lot faster. This is something that you would have to like take your time with, but the end results are amazing. So yeah, this product is really great. I do recommend it because the packaging is so cute, and it does the same thing that oil does. So do you necessarily like need this? No, because you can use other things, but I still do recommend this product because it's just so cute. The packaging is really nice, and it does get the job done. So yeah, but that's really important, you guys. When I first started out with makeup and doing cut creases, I would just apply the eyeshadow and then just go in with concealer and just cover all of that excess eyeshadow instead of taking that off and then applying the base. So like I said, you guys are gonna see in the tutorial, but yes, that step is just so important and it's a game changer. It's seriously a game changer. So yeah, so after you remove that, of course, you're gonna go in with your brush, and I went in with the P. Louise and Mama Mitchell Acid Rain and Blank Canvas. This is amazing. This is a paint, not a base, so it is a little bit thicker in consistency, and it does dry down to a matte finish, but obviously you have like ample time to be able to pack on your eyeshadows and everything before it dries down. But yeah, this is just, it's amazing. This product, I love it so freaking much. It makes any eyeshadow that you use just pop. Like, as you can see, my lids are really, really opaque. So yeah, and it's because of this base. So yep, and of course you would use this brush to do so. Now, like I said, this is actually thicker than the base, so you obviously want to go back with this brush, your fluffy brush that we were talking about, to just make sure that you get the excess product off. And then we're moving on to the lid brushes. So you kind of have to be strategic when it comes to cut creases, of course, especially depending on how much lid space you have. I feel like I barely have any. There's some people that has less than me, but I just feel like I don't really have much. So small detail brushes like this are really, really important for me to have in my collection. So yeah. So I will start off with this brush first. It's a really, really, really tiny packing brush. And I use this to basically get on the edges just to make sure that every single part of that base is completely covered. You don't want to leave any of that blank canvas exposed, because once you go into your crease shades, back into your crease shades, and just make sure everything has a lot of depth, you don't want it to blend in with that base. You want the lid shade to be completely covering that blank canvas base. So like you guys are gonna see in the video, I just went ahead and packed on the outer like edge, and then I went in with this e.l.f. eyeshadow brush. This is my favorite brush to pack on lid shades. Oh, I love it so much. It's obviously bigger. They're literally the same. One is smaller than the other. That's all it is. And this one just packs it on really, really nicely. No matter how much you put on the brush, it's still gonna evenly distribute the color onto the lid, especially it does the exact same thing with the shimmers as well. So yeah, so now we're gonna get into the lower lash line brushes. So yeah, you guys, now this is something that I feel so bad about, and I promise the next video that I upload, I will show you guys every single thing when it comes to the eyes. But like I said in the beginning of the video, I definitely forgot to press record when I was doing my lower lash line. So I'm just gonna go by like in depth, step by step on how I did that. It's not gonna take too long because it's not really much that I do. So yeah, so the first thing that I do is I take a brush like this. I feel like this is like a paint brush that I just randomly found in my little like painting collection. But yeah, it's really, really thin, really small. And I just use that to apply my blank canvas base along my lower lash line. And then I went in with a thin pencil brush, really, really thin, small pencil brush. And then I go in with the darkest shade that I used in my crease on my lower lash line. I really put it tight, like tight, really close to the waterline. And then I will go in with a brush that is like this. It is like a really, really jam-packed, like dense packing brush. As you can see, you can still see like the eyeshadow on the edges. I will take that second to lightest crease shade, and I will just go in and buff that under the lower lash line. That's literally all I do. I just take about at least 2 to 3 colors that I use from the crease, and then I'll just, you know, match that to the lower lash line. So last but not least, I went ahead with that same brush that I use for to apply the base on my lower lash line. I put this in my waterline as well, and then I will go ahead and take the same brush and go into the lid shades that I use, and I will just set that base in my waterline. Then I went ahead and just applied some mascara, and that's literally it, you guys. So yes, either way, even though it does seem like it's really not much, I will definitely make sure that I incorporate that in my next video, because it definitely should have been in today's video. But yeah, I apologize about that, you guys. But that's pretty much it as far as all the brushes that you're going to need to achieve today's look. And one more thing, I did apply a shimmer. I use this shade right here in the Wet n Wish palette by P. Louise. I use this shade right here, this shimmer shade, for the inner corner, and I use my small dense brush by Morphe to apply. So yeah, you guys, that's pretty much all I did. Those are all the brushes that you're gonna need, all the products that you're gonna need to achieve today's look or any cut crease look. And yeah, you guys, so if you would like to see how I created this look step by step, then just continue to watch. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video and that you learned something from today's video. If you did or have any recommendations, please let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, you guys, I will see you in my next one.
Yep, y'all, that's me looking stupid because I did not freaking press record when I was covered on my brows. I'm so sorry, y'all, but I'm going to be taking the two P. Louise bases in Rumor 4 and 8, and I mixed it together. You guys have seen me carve out my brows numerous amounts of times, so it was nothing like too spectacular that you guys missed. But after I did that, I went ahead and used a patted motion, making sure that I trap that air in between the brush and the base. That way it's going to give you a sticky consistency and quite tacky. That way your eyeshadows will stick to the base and it will make your eyeshadows appear more pigmented. But yeah, you guys, that's just extremely important. And when you're applying your base, you just want to make sure that that flat concealer brush is evenly coated on both sides of the brush. So now I'm going to be going into my fluffy brush and just patting using the same motion as I did previously to just make sure that all that excess moisture is off of my eyelid. So now I'm going in with my first shade and with my smallest blending brush, and I'm going to be going in creating that shape. We are doing a round half cut crease, so you want to make sure that you put that first blend down very circular, okay? And I zoomed in to just show you guys how smooth that eyeshadow applied. Not because the eyeshadows are really great, they're great quality. It's also because of the base. The base is extremely important. So that's why you know, I was really going over it while I was showing you guys the brushes that I was using, just because, like, yeah, the base is just extremely important, and it's definitely going to set the foundation of how your eyeshadows are performing. So yeah, like I said, you're going to be using a patting motion to apply this first blend, because you're really focused on just applying and packing on pigment, not necessarily making sure that you're blending it. We're going to be doing more of that when we start going in with other shades. So just for right now, you want to just pack on that pigment and just make sure that it's opaque as how you would like it. So now I'm going to go in with my second shade, and this is when we're going to start the 50-50 technique. So this technique is basically when you're going to be picking up product and you're going to be putting half of that product on the previous eyeshadow that you applied, and the other half of the brush is going to be on basically like the rest of the space that's on your eyelid. So yeah, when you're doing this, you definitely want to make sure that it's going to be even. This way you can go ahead and start creating a more seamless blend, instead of you just putting the product completely on the base and not on the previous eyeshadow, because that's going to cause skipping. It's not going to have that gradient effect when the eyeshadows are just blending into each other. It's going from darkest to lightest. It's just kind of skippy. It just looks like, okay, this is the dark color, this is the lighter color, this is the lightest color. Like, it's supposed to look real seamless and have that gradient effect. So this technique is really good to get that kind of finish. So now we're taking our third blend, and we're going to be, yeah, don't mind my palette, y'all. It kind of broke when I was moving. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be taking that shade, obviously, on the fluffyish brush that we're going to be using as far as blending the eyeshadows. So yeah, you guys, we're going to be doing the exact same method. Nothing has changed. It's just we're using a different brush, because like I said, we want that more diffuse kind of look as we go into like the transition shades. So yeah, that's all I'm going to be doing. And another thing that I failed to mention a little bit earlier in the video is that when you're applying these shades, you want to have like a really light touch. you want to not have such a very harsh hand while you're blending, because that way is like you can cause your eyeshadows to just look really muddy, but you want the eyeshadow to just sit on top of that base and just have that nice smooth effect. When you start blending to the point where you can see like your brush going back and forth and you're just being too harsh, that's when everything is just not going to blend well at all. So you just want to make sure that you have a really light touch. I kind of got a little bit crazy when I was going back into those shades. You'll kind of see later throughout the video. I'll show you guys. But yeah, just be mindful of that. I know it's easy to zone out, especially because you're just spending all of this time blending. But please just be mindful of your pressure that you're using while you're blending. So now what I'm doing is the ladder method, okay? So this is basically when you're just going back into those shades. So you see how we started from the bottom and then we went up to the top. Now we're just coming from the top back down to the bottom, okay? So I went back in with that transition shade, made sure that it was opaque to my liking, and then I went in with that second shade and then with the first shade. So yeah, that's basically what I was doing, because you know when you're blending, you can kind of lose that pigment. So yeah. So yeah, you guys, I kind of forgot that I decided last minute that I wanted to add another shade just so I can just have a more diffused look, and it can basically just blend a little bit better with that last transition shade, because yes, it is a transition shade, but it's also pretty on the dark side. So yeah, I just wanted to have another shade to add just to, you know, really make sure that everything looked nice and blended and diffused nicely. So yeah, I'm just doing that. And I took the same brush that I used for the previous transition shade. I just wiped off that that other eyeshadow and I just was blending it out. So now I'm going in with the cut crease remover. You guys, this is a really important product, and this is seriously going to change your freaking cut crease game, I'm telling you. So basically it's just a consistency like a kind of like raw coconut oil. And basically what you're going to do is just carve out your cut crease. Just make sure that exactly where you want the eyeshadow to be removed is evenly coated on that area. And then you're going to just, you know, make sure that it's nice and even. And you're just going to remove it. Now, this is something I definitely forgot to show when I was showing the brushes and the bases and everything in the beginning of the video, but I'm going to be using a cosmetic Q-tip. Now, you guys, these are a game changer. Like, I love them so freaking much because they have like a really nice fine point at the tip of it, and I'm able to really get in the corners and just, you know, get a more precise carve when I'm cutting the crease. So yeah, I love these so much. I have like a 200 pack. Yeah, they're amazing, you guys. So this is really important. It has changed my cut crease game for the better completely. If we just went in with the base, as you're going to see a little bit later, we're going in with a really light lid shade. So you want to make sure that you have like the cleanest lid ever, so that way that that lid shade can pop. So yeah, this is really important, you guys. If you don't take anything from this video, the main two things that I would take, honestly, is, I mean, obviously everything, but just the base of your, the foundation of your base, and then doing this step as well is really important. In and out, arguing, trifling, difficult, So now I'm going to go in with my blank canvas paint, and I'm going to be carving out the crease. This is something that you really want to take your time in. Sometimes I kind of want to rush it, I'm not going to lie, because I just get a little bit impatient. But yeah, you guys, don't be like me, be better than me. And just make sure that you take your time when you're doing this step. After you get that carve out and you get the shape that you want, you're basically just doing the same thing that you would when applying the base. Just make sure that it's a nice even layer. I don't know if I showed it, but I did take that fluffy brush that we used previously when we were putting down the base, just to get that excess product and everything like that. I don't think I showed it in the video though, but that's okay. All you're doing is just using a pat and motion to just make sure that it's not like too much product, and you just want to make sure that it's an even layer. So yeah. Now I'm going in with the two packing brushes. I'm using the smaller one just to get around the edges, honestly, because when I go in with a bigger brush initially, I find that some of the eyeshadow base is not coated with that lid shade. So I go in with a more smaller detail brush so I can make sure that all of that base is getting nice and coated. I love these brushes so much, especially the e.l.f. one, because it definitely gives me a nice even layer of the eyeshadow. It really packs on the product really, really well. So yeah, I highly recommend these two brushes. So as you guys can see, when I'm packing on that lid shade, I'm leaving a little bit of that base showing on the outer corner. That way I can go in with my two blending shades on the edges and just make sure that everything is nice and blended into that lid shade. Okay, so I'm just packing it on, and then I'm just going to work on blending them so they can look a lot more seamless. So yeah, you guys, you've seen me do graphic liner a million times, and it would not be me if I did not incorporate it in today's video. So yeah, I just took a fine brush and I'm just creating a line around that cut crease. But yeah, you guys, this is the end of the tutorial. I really hope that you guys learned something and was able to get a lot of information out of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the look, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.